me ask you about a little bit of news. The Supreme Court announced that it would hear a case this term that could potentially restrict access nationwide to a widely used abortion drug called Mifepristone. You oppose abortion, but do you believe that the court should limit the distribution of this drug nationwide?
So I think this is a question, it's the job of the Supreme Court, who would have ever thought, to judge the law. This is a case about administrative law, actually. This is less about the abortion question, and it's more about, did the FDA exceed the scope of its statutory authority when it approved Mifepristone on an emergency basis? And these emergency approvals are generally reserved for life-saving therapies that need to be brought to market quickly. So this is a symptom, Abby, of what's going on in the administrative state. The people who we elect to run the government, they're not even the ones who actually run the government right now. It's the bureaucrats in those three-letter agencies that are pulling the strings today. So the most important Supreme Court case of our lifetime, and I want people to understand this, came out last term. It's West Virginia versus EPA, that said if Congress did not expressly give an agency the right to write a regulation, then that's unconstitutional. And so it is my opinion, it's the Supreme Court's that'll matter, but I'm pretty sure they're going to come down where I am on this, that the FDA exceeded its statutory authority in using an emergency approval to approve something that doesn't fit Congress's criteria for what actually counts as an emergency approval. So yes, I hope they follow the law. I hope that's where they come down. And if the people of this country disagree with that, we have a mechanism for that. It's called the democratic process. Do it through the front door of Congress. And there's one thing I'm going to do as the next president. It's to shut down that fourth branch of government. Rescind those unconstitutional federal regulations that Congress never actually passed. And yes, lay off 75% of the federal employee headcount. That's the answer.
I want to get to our question, but just before we do that, just so that everyone is clear, you do believe that the Supreme Court should ban Mifepristone?
I believe that the Supreme Court should put the FDA back in its place.
But as it relates to this particular...
That's before the court.
But as it relates to
this... should rule on the law.
As it relates to this particular drug,
and as
do you believe that that will ultimately result in Mifepristone being banned nationwide?
I believe it will result in Mifepristone being taken off the market until they go through the process that's ordained for every other drug that doesn't go through emergency approval.
Okay.
The FDA should follow the law if the rest of us do too. It's a simple thing to ask.
I do want to go to our audience again. We've got Claire Musselman here waiting to ask a question. She's a professor at Drake University who teaches in the College of Business and Education. She's a Republican from West Des Moines who is undecided. Claire?
Thank you, Abby. Thank you also for spending time with our students at Drake. As a professor, I think it's super important that we get that opportunity, so thank you for spending time with them. As president, what specific strategies would you implement to promote diversity and inclusion in leadership roles within both public and private sectors? How do you plan to support the advancement of underrepresented groups, including women, in these areas?
So I'll be very honest with you. I'm going to share with you Thomas Sowell quote that stuck with me. If you care about somebody, you tell them the truth, or at least what you believe. If you care about yourself, you tell them what they want to hear. And I have a feeling I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear on this one. So I think the diversity, equity, inclusion agenda has been abused. In the name of diversity, we have, at many of our universities, totally sacrificed diversity of thought. In the name of equity, we've perpetuated a lot of inequity and inequality of opportunity through affirmative action and otherwise. In the name of inclusion, we've created a new culture of exclusion where certain points of view aren't welcome. So especially in a university setting, what do I care about? Diversity of viewpoint. This is important, actually. I think diversity of viewpoint is part of what this country was built on. Well, the best way to foster diversity of viewpoint is to screen candidates for the diversity of their views, actually. Look at the board members of many universities. You're going to go through their partisan affiliation. It's not 80-20. It's going to be like 90-10 in the other direction. That's completely at odds with the representation of this country. So do I value diversity of viewpoint? Absolutely. Do I think we're doing a good job of that? No, we're not. And it's not an accident. In the name of diversity, we've actually created a new culture of conformity. And so I think it's entirely possible to have a group of 10 people who look similar to one another who have different views. I think it's entirely possible to have a group of 10 people who look different from one another, or who look the same as one another but have different views, or look different from one another and have the same views. And so I think the best way to screen candidates for the diversity of their experiences is to actually ask them about the diversity of their experiences. And I think the use of these racial and gender quota systems, I think have actually created a new form of racism in the United States that otherwise would not have existed. It's sad to me. I mean, I've hired not because I was thinking about it consciously. Plenty of black women in different positions of authority in this campaign or other companies or whatever. And I can tell you, it saddens me when people look at somebody who I hired on the basis of merit and say that they only got that job because of their race or gender. That doesn't do anybody a favor. And so I think if we restore true meritocracy in this country and embrace true diversity of thought, chances are we're actually going to have a bunch of different shades of melanin and a range of genders in different positions. But let it be not the goal. Let it just be a byproduct of actually selecting for people who are the best person for the job, and especially in a university setting, diverse viewpoints as well. That's what I'll say.
And that's a good place for us to pause. We'll be right back with more from presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. Welcome back to CNN's Town Hall with presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. Let's go straight to the audience. We've got Rhonda McCoy here. She's a retired French professor from West Des Moines. Rhonda is a Republican who is undecided in this primary. Rhonda?
Good evening. Thank you for being here.
Bonsoir.
You bet. What is the most important or interesting thing you've learned about Iowans during your travel through the state?
I've learned a lot. I think one thing I share in common with Iowans is a level of candor, actually. Everybody told me about Iowa nice. That's what I was told before I came here. What I've actually found is Iowa candor. And I appreciate that because that's the true form of nice. You know, this is the 10th event we're doing today, actually. So we've done 10 events like this across the state. And I found that people appreciate that. We're visiting, they call the full Grassley. You visit all 99 counties. We're doing that times 2, actually, going in this year period. And it doesn't feel like work to me, actually. It feels like we're having open conversations. I find that they don't appreciate pre-canned speeches. So I've mostly dispensed with that, or if I'm going to do it, I'll keep it to 2 to 5 minutes. I find that they actually appreciate and relish open conversation and candor. I think that's one of the things that surprised me most. The other thing that I think that surprised me was somebody told me this. We ran the Des Moines Turkey Trot. We were here on Thanksgiving. And as I was running, somebody wished me good luck. And then she said, but you know how to spell luck, right? And this is an expression I had learned from my parents a long time ago. She says, you spell it W-O-R-K. And I said, you know what? That sounds like something that my parents taught me when I was little. But I think that that's also something that I found amongst Iowans, is they value people who work hard, because many of you do work hard. A culture of farmers, a culture of people who are business builders across this state. And I think that's something that we would do well to make a national value in this country again. Embrace hard work, give us back our sense of purpose. That's how we revive this country. So, thank you.
All right, well, a big thank you to our audience, and thank you to Mr. Ramaswamy.
Thank you.